Track 4. Thanks, Eleanor and Barry. Now the rest of the news by myself, Sarah and Vic. Kettering Town are set to sign a deal to play their football at Neen Park. Club chairman Imran Ladakh confirmed negotiations with Neen Park landlord and former Rushden and Diamonds chairman Keith Cousins have been taking place since Poppy's fans gave the potential relocation to Wellingborough their approval at a special meeting at Wicksteed Park at the end of last week. Rumours had just suggested talk had broken down earlier in the week. However, Mr Ladakh expects to find out today whether the deal, which is likely to be a 25-year lease, will go ahead. The move was proposed by the chairman with the lease on their current home in Rockingham Road due to run out in 2 years, while any further agreements with landlord Ben Pickering have been deemed unsustainable for the Blue Square Bet Premier Club. Fans voted overwhelmingly in favour of the move following last week's meeting, and it now seems they will get their wish. Mr Ladakh said, "We are very close to a deal at Neen Park and we will now know soon whether all the terms have been agreed. When you look at the whole site over there, there are different segments to it. For our current site, I would say the rent is not too far away in terms of value for the facilities we have. At Neen Park, there are also the training facilities that come with it, and they are a valuable revenue stream for any club that is there. We possibly would have liked a slightly better deal, but the facility is incredible. There is no doubt about that." Over the weekend, Mr Ladakh confirmed that the Poppies would only make a move under a number of conditions, including retaining their name and that they are the sole club at the site. The future of Diamonds remains uncertain as they await an appeal against their recent expulsion from the Blue Square Bet Premier for financial reasons.
Kettering Town Football Club Supporters Trust has voted to set up a new club in a bid to keep a football club in Kettering. The move comes as a deal is set to be sealed for Kettering Town FC to move into Neen Park in Wellingborough, taking the club more than 8 miles away from Kettering. At a meeting on Thursday, members of the Supporters Trust voted to form a so-called Phoenix Club. Supporters Trust Chairman Mark Severin said, "The vote was actually very, very close. The motion was whether they would support a club playing in Wellingborough. There were 55 people who said yes and 58 said no. Of the people who said no, 53 said they would support a Phoenix club in town. Of the people prepared to go to Wellingborough, a further quantity said they wanted to look at a Phoenix club to bring a football club back to Kettering." Mr Severin said several local businesses had pledged donations totalling £20,000 to be used if a Phoenix club becomes a reality. He said the Trust was now investigating the possibility of setting up a Phoenix club and was looking at a couple of locations within the borough of Kettering where its games could be played. Mr Severin said Trust members accepted that if a Phoenix club was created, it would be playing football at a much lower level than the current first team is playing at. Kettering Town FC chairman Imran Ladakh said he had sympathy for supporters who did not want to see the Poppies leave Kettering. He said, "I'm sympathetic to the supporters who want to keep Kettering in Kettering. I don't want to criticise people who have done so much for the club and given up so much of their time. However, I do think it is unhelpful for the club. The supporters have made it clear what they want. By a massive majority, it would be better if all the effort could be made to keep Kettering Town Football Club as an entity in itself and work together for it to succeed. I'm not sure if it is the right thing, but I do respect their intentions. I completely understand why they feel like they do."
Crowds lined the streets of Rothwell last week to celebrate the annual proclamation. Every year, Town Bailiff Robert Denton rides around the town on horseback reading Rothwell's ancient charter. Mr Denton tours the town's pubs on horseback, reading the charter at each stop. After each reading, a scuffle takes place in which dozens of people attempt to grab medieval weapons known as halberds, which are carried by the bailiff's minders. Rowellians turned out in force early in the morning to follow the reading of the proclamation around the streets before heading indoors to enjoy traditional roll fair breakfasts and the traditional drink of rum and milk at cafes and pubs across the town, which opened early for the occasion. Debbie Sumter of Crispin Street said, "We got there about 5:50 a.m. We have done it for the past 20 years or more. It's really, really good. The weather was good. It was typical Royal Fair weather. It's never rained on Royal Fair Day. There was a lot of younger ones about, which is good because they are the future of the Royal Fair." Steve Cattle of New Street said, "It's a good family day. It's superb. It's always a good time." Belinda Chandler of Magellan Close said, "It was brilliant. I enjoyed all of it. It was a lovely morning, as always, and there was a good turnout considering it was a working day. I've been coming for more than 30 years. I enjoy the atmosphere, all the rural people getting together and having a good day." Trevor and Jean Taylor travelled to Rothwell from Beverley in East Yorkshire to visit their son in Rothwell and to go along to the event. Mr. Taylor said, "We hadn't been before. It was very different. We thought it was very good and we enjoyed it." And Ellen Barrett of Kipton Close said, "It's a tradition that I always do. My father always did it, so I will always do it. I thought it was a good crowd for a work day. Long may it continue." Martin Vandrill of Peveril Close, Desborough, a former Rowellian, said, "I've never missed one all of my life and I'm 62. It's fantastic."
Letters from a Rushden soldier to his wife in the Second World War have formed the basis of a new book. Shoemaker's son George Warner sent his wife Maudie hundreds of letters describing accounts of his time spent as a dispatch rider with the Royal Army Service Corps between 1941 and 1945. They were kept by Maudie until her death in 2004, aged 102, when her daughter Jean Piriton found them. She began to piece together her father's war by setting the letters, which could not include details of his whereabouts and the job, against the official war diaries of his unit to see where he had been and what he had been doing. The result is a personal and touching account of the effects of war. A passage from one letter reads, "I haven't written much lately. I don't seem to have been able to manage it, but I've been thinking of you all the more. I sometimes wonder whether it has been worth it. I see all around poverty and disease, little babies covered in sores, and obviously either underfed or not getting the right food. When I see these things, then I realise it's been worth it, for I feel that I have done my share in helping to keep such conditions from our little girls and from you. I'd rather spend the rest of my life here than anything like that should happen to you." Mrs. Piriton says that the book brings home to people just how far away those soldiers were. The book, One Musician's War, is published by Amberley and costs £14.99. To order, visit the website www.amberleybooks.com.
Visitors to a museum will receive an even better experience after its volunteers passed a secret shopper test to get advanced training. Volunteers at Rushden Museum passed the secret shopper test carried out by the Visitor Attraction Quality Assurance Scheme to win funding for Golden Host training. As part of the training, 3 volunteers, Sarah Peacock, Jill Mercer and Kay Collins, had the chance to produce a new visitor leaflet for the museum and joined forces with the museum in Wollaston, Oundle and Prebendal to produce a joint leaflet about their facilities called Go On Sunday. Mrs. Peacock said, "Everyone has been working really hard at the museum, and this year we've put on new activities to entertain children and adults. There are quizzes for children and a crossword for adults, and we've got new clipboards and pencils for pupils to use when they visit us with their school. We're hoping to attract more young people to the museum, and we want to recruit more volunteers." Mrs. Peacock added that this year's exhibition was about sporting personalities from the town and had proved a big hit. She said lots of people had loaned us pictures for the display. "I think people like it because it's nice to see familiar faces. At one time, every factory and church had its own football team. The museum at the back of Rushden Hall is open from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. It's holding a grand high tea at Newston Hall in Irchester on Sunday. Tickets are £10 from 01933 317 261.
If you've done it in Northamptonshire, then a man who's hanging up his camera today has probably photographed it. Evening Telegraph Deputy Chief Photographer Alan Castle is retiring after 43 years behind the lens at the paper, in a career which has taken him all over the county and beyond. Highlights of that career include being the only press photographer to attend the official joining of the Channel Tunnel between England and France, and flying out on mercy missions to Bosnia. Alan grew up in Hazel Grove near Stockport and spent around 2 years on the Stockport Express after a spell as a freelance. He then applied for a position at the Evening Telegraph, moved to Kettering, and has never looked back. He's retiring just before his 65th birthday. Alan said, "I find it quite incredible that I've stuck it out for 43 years. I was only supposed to come here for 6 months initially. I'll definitely miss all the kind people who I've met over the years." Asked how he will spend his retirement, Alan said, "I'll be finding lots of things to do. I'm going to France for the summer. I will be going to have a nice holiday and then come back and find some work. I'll probably end up doing some of the AT. I've really enjoyed working with some great people and I'll miss them all." Highlights of Alan's career included travelling with then Kettering MP and Transport Minister Roger Freeman to the middle of the Channel Tunnel. He also remembers a close call at a routine gas leak in Burton Latimer, where a house exploded just 20 feet from where he was standing. Alan is married to Catherine and has 2 grown-up children.